There are no witches, not really.
Hey Ocean Crew, welcome back to my channel. I'm Karen, and tonight in this episode of Spooky Flicks, we're gonna look at the 1968 horror film Rosemary's Baby. Rosemary's Baby from 1968. Newlywed couple Rosemary and Guy Woodhouse move into a fancy apartment in Manhattan with nosy neighbors Roman and Minnie Castevet. When Rosemary becomes pregnant and Guy gets cast in a big Hollywood film, unusual things begin to happen, leaving Rosemary and her dear friend Hutch exploring the world of Satanic Cults. Directed by Roman Polanski, starring Mia Farrow, John Casavettes, and Ruth Gordon. So Rosemary's Baby was really cutting edge because at the time it kicked off this whole generation of Satan-themed horror movies, which hadn't happened before. And then after that, we got movies like The Exorcist and The Omen. There was a lot of controversy about it when it first came out, and I'm guessing people thought that we were all gonna start worshiping Satan and kill people and drink their blood. So it was kind of a crazy time, but this film kicked that off, and I think that's really cool. And just a little heads up, there will be a few spoilers in this video. This movie is one of my favorites. I love it so very much, and it really holds up over time. Now, Roman Polanski, when he created this, he put his all into it, much like Spielberg did with Jaws. And man, I really appreciate that because it just makes for such a great film. Both films went way over shooting schedule and pissed off the producers and the executives and that kind of thing, but you know what? Lucky for us that they did. Mia Farrow, who played Rosemary, and John Casavettes, who played her husband Guy, did phenomenal. They put their all into these roles, and it really shows. And I absolutely love the set design. The apartment is gorgeous. The costumes, the hair, the props, all of it. So classic, so vintage, so awesome. There are no real jump scares in this movie. It's creepy and beautiful, but that still makes for an amazing horror film. My favorite movies are from that time period, from the late 60s to all through the 70s, actually. I was born in 1968, and I didn't get to see this movie when it first came out. I saw it later, but I still love that time period. I found it was a very innocent time, and it just, for me, where I grew up, it was the best. I really enjoy that. I have fond memories, and I in turn love all of those movies from that time, especially this one. And like I've said a whole bunch of times before, the horror and things are implied, so you have to use your mind, your brain, to kind of figure things out, and you can sort of paint the picture however you want to. And I love that there's no massive CGI, it's not graphically violent and that kind of thing, and I really appreciate movies from that time. And the book went hand in hand with this too, so that's kind of a neat thing also. My sister and my mom would always get the books and read them and tell me all about them when I was a kid, and then they would come out in movie format, and if I could, we would go, or we would watch it on television. And I love that about these kinds of movies. So Roman took the book and readapted it into a film, and he stuck very closely to the storyline, which is really cool too. This movie was a box office hit, and I think it made somewhere around 30 million. I'm not sure about that. I'll have to check, but I'm pretty sure. And back then that was a lot of money. And Ruth Gordon actually won an Academy Award for her role in this film. And fun fact, Quentin Tarantino said that this was one of the scariest movies of all time, and a lot of people felt that way. The exterior shots of the hotel were actually filmed in front of the Dakota Hotel in New York, but the interiors were made on set because it was easier to work with that way. I guess the inside of the hotel itself, it wasn't feasible, or it was too tight of a space to work with. So that's pretty cool. The way they capture the look of the inside of the apartments is just amazing. I would kill to have an apartment like that with the high ceilings and all of the architecture, and man, so cool. And like I say, the costumes were just amazing. The dresses and things that Mia wore, and even her Vidal Sassoon haircut that she got partway through when she was pregnant, even though she was starting to kind of deteriorate and get sunken eyes and really skinny and look very sick, the haircut was so awesome. The musical score is amazing as well. And a little fun fact, there's a part where there's, I think it's at the beginning where there's a woman singing in the music, and it's actually Mia singing. They used her for it. I think that is so neat. And Mia said that the film was done out of sequence. They filmed it out of sequence. And my favorite scene is the one where she's pregnant with the devil baby, and she's a little distraught, and she's walking out through traffic, all this heavy New York traffic, and all the cars are kind of stopping around her. It's very intense, very stressful. And apparently Roman said, I'm gonna film it, and you've got this pregnant suit on, and you know what, just walk into the traffic. The cars will stop because they're not going to hit a pregnant woman. So she trusted him, and they did it, and that's how they got that shot. I love finding out stuff like that. I think that's so neat. That's definitely my favorite scene. And the infamous scene where the baby is conceived, where, you know, Rosemary and the devil summoned up and they're making the devil baby. There's so many dream sequences in that, and they're so awesome, which is very crazy because usually those kinds of sequences end up being really stupid and lame, but this one is not. It's really well done. And another fun fact that's kind of funny, the guy that played the devil part was like dressed in the scales, the costume with the eyes, and he came in completely naked, did the scene, and then it was awkward, right, obviously, and then afterwards he shook her hand and said, "Thank you, good job." At the end of the movie, we learn of her having a son, this devil son, and we never actually get to see the baby. And there was a reason for that. Roman Polanski felt that there's just this dark, veiled, old-fashioned sort of crib with this upside-down crucifix hanging from it like a mobile. And the reason we don't get to see the baby is because he felt that if he did some sort of special makeup effect or something and showed the baby, it wouldn't come across as being legit or serious, and people would think it was really hokey or funny. So he leaves the baby out altogether, and I love that because it does make it very creepy and makes you wonder. You get the feeling, but because Mia Farrow and the actors are so good at what they do, I don't think that the actual baby seeing it is necessary, and it's just such a creepy scene. That's actually another one of my favorite scenes, is the very end. So when Rosemary first gets pregnant, of course she's very happy, but very quickly she starts to get very ill, and she's kind of the opposite of pregnant. Usually when you're pregnant, you're glowing, you're healthy, you're putting on weight, and she was getting sickly and losing weight. She's eating raw meat, and she's just not feeling herself. So she ends up, instead of going to her regular doctor, she gets assigned to this specialist that's supposed to be the best in town, this Dr. Saperstein, and that part is very, he's being very secretive with her and keeps telling her everything's fine, and to let the neighbor give her this weird herb to make her feel better. So all of that's very, very, very creepy. And as always is the case, there's always a good friend that's watching out for you. And in this case, Rosemary has this friend named Hutch, and he starts to worry about her. And so he does a test and some research on this tannis root, this herb that the neighbors are giving her. And he finds out that it's some kind of a witchcraft thing. And then he starts to research the apartment building and finds that there's a long history there, and that these neighbors are a little strange, and that there's possibility that they were involved in the cults that happened there, and the witchcraft and things that were going on. So he gets very suspicious and tries to warn her, and then she starts to put things together, and with how she's feeling and the doctors and everybody and what they're saying, and she starts to get suspicious as well. Now, of course, this tannis root is fictitious. It was made up for the book and the film, but you can kind of liken it to another herb that's called mandragora. I've never heard of it before, but it's a kind of a poisonous herb that's used in witchcraft, like for real. So that's kind of neat. I love the idea of green Wicca and the concepts of living off the earth and things being in balance and that kind of thing. So I like that part of this film. So very sadly and mysteriously, Hutch, her friend, ends up passing away unexpectedly, but he sends this book to her, and it's called All of Them Witches, and she sort of reads through and tries to figure out the message that he was trying to send to her. So there's kind of that idea that perhaps maybe these witches put a spell on him and killed him off because he was starting to figure them out, and they didn't want Rosemary to kind of be suspicious or figure stuff out because they want her to deliver this baby. And she of course does figure stuff out, and she tries to escape, and she runs to the doctor, ends up finding out, and they end up catching her, and no one will believe her anyways, and she has nowhere to go, but she's, you know, running, trying to protect her baby. She's just desperate, thinking they're trying to steal the baby or kill the baby or that kind of thing. And as a result, too, the beginning when she gets pregnant, and all of a sudden her husband, who's been kind of a mediocre actor, not doing very well, suddenly lands this amazing huge role, and weirdly the original actor that was in that role goes blind and can't perform anymore. So that was kind of crazy, and that's part of how she puts things together. But it's not until the very end that she really figures it all out, and it's kind of whacked because here she is trying to protect the baby, and she finds out that the baby's part demon, and there's nowhere to go or turn. It's absolutely a horrifying, mind-blowing concept, and she chooses to take care of the baby because she just loves the baby so much. So it's crazy. It's a crazy awesome. I just love this movie so very much. I could watch it over and over and over, and I'd love it just as much every time. So there's this idea that the film itself is cursed because a lot of crazy bad things happen to many of the actors and people connected to it. So first thing that happened, Mia Farrow got served divorce papers by her then husband Frank Sinatra because he was pissed that she was working on this movie instead of the movie that he was working on. What a douche. Sorry. I just think that's kind of a scuzzy thing to do. But anyways, that happened. But the cool part is she did the movie anyway. Another thing that happened is one of the producers got lots of hate mail because of the subject of this film, the witches and Satan and all that. And I think he became very ill, and then eventually he just didn't do films ever again. So that's kind of tragic. And another thing was the author of the book, Ira Levine, he got heavily criticized because of the concept of the occult and that kind of thing. So the Christians went after him. That was kind of a thing back then, actually, going to church and Christianity, and that was big, and people were so worried about cults and satanic worshippers, and so you know, I could see that would be a big strain on a marriage, so that one's pretty sad too. And of course, the biggest tragedy of all was Roman Polanski's pregnant wife, Sharon Tate, savagely murdered by Charlie Manson and his crew a year after the movie. It's crazy because the whole storyline mirrors that. Pregnant woman terrorized by a cult. Just awful. Very heartbreaking to watch the interviews and things of Roman after the fact, and just hard to wrap your head around as well. And I remember that time period too, and man, it was a real scary time. Like every so many years, all of them coming up for parole was horrifying to think that they were going to get out of jail. But anyway, that's something else very tragic that's connected to this film and very sad as well. So what do you guys think? Do you think the film is cursed, or is it all coincidences? Let me know in the comments section down below. I'd really love to hear. In 1976, there was a sequel to this movie called Look What's Happened to Rosemary's Baby. It had different actors, although Ruth Gordon was back in the role as the crazy neighbor. But Patty Duke played Rosemary, and it was about baby Adrian, you know, the devil baby grown up. Kind of crazy. It was a made-for-TV movie. I didn't really like it. I mean, it was all right, but it was kind of weird. You know, and there were some other TV actors in it as well, but you could check it out if you want. I don't think it holds up to, it wasn't the same people that made it either, so it doesn't really hold up to the first film at all. And also in 2014, there was a TV series about Rosemary's Baby, and I never saw that. I didn't even know it existed. I'll have to check that out sometime. Have you guys seen it? I'd sure like to know what you think about it. So I adore Rosemary's Baby, and I'm going to give it for my review 5 shark bites out of 5 because I love it that much. I absolutely think if you haven't seen it, go watch it, or watch it again because it's that good. And if you like this video, don't forget to give me a thumbs up because it helps me out a lot, and subscribe to the channel if you want to see more movie reviews and watch the rest of the Halloween season that we've got going on here. And as always, thank you guys so much for stopping by. It really means a lot. I love chatting with you and hanging out, and I will see you again in a few days with another horror review. I'm really looking forward to it. I've got so many lined up. I'm going to try to do 3 a week, but we'll see what happens. I love you guys so much. We'll see you again soon. Bye, guys.